Good afternoon, Tom Ginn, your host of G-Force. We will be right back. Good afternoon, Tom Ginn, your host for G-Force. I always like to start out before we do my introduction of our guest today, which I'm really excited about and grateful that we have crossed paths. But myself being a personal development coach, we learn a lot of different ways to correct our thinking and be positive and learn to respond versus reacting in life. And one of the most influential pieces I found on a personal basis I use in my coaching is the power of gratitude. And some of the principles I use and apply on my daily basis comes out of this book right here, Gratitude Works by Robert A. Emmons. And I just encourage people, because no matter what's going on in our life, positive or negative, it's when we go to a place of gratitude, I believe it opens up the gates to allow us to look and respond positively, even in the most difficult times. And that's one of the things that excited me about the guest we got coming in. And she was in her interview with Ken Walls here several weeks ago. And she's got an amazing, amazing story. And she kept talking about gratitude. And I said, this lady has got it. She understands the power of gratitude, because her story is pretty dynamic. And today she'll get into that a little bit. But I'm so grateful that I happened to be at my computer that day. And she came up on Ken Wall's program. So I want to give kudos to Ken. I'm part of his Grow Live Academy. I've been doing this about 2 years just because of Ken and meeting some amazing people. So I'm so grateful today. Today I'm going to introduce some people say, well, what does cybersecurity have to do with gratitude? Well, I'm going to introduce Sandra Estok. She's the founder of Way to Protect. Excuse me. There goes my dyslexia. Way to Protect. She utilizes 20 years of experience in cybersecurity, IT, and data privacy. And she's going to bring a different perspective about cybersecurity and the topic we'll be talking today. So without any further ado, I want to introduce our guest to G-Force. G is for gratitude, Sandra Estok. Whoop. Hit the wrong buttons. There we go. Technology. That's not my forte. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, no matter where our audience is. Sandra, thanks for being here today. So I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you so much, Tom, for having me. And I'm delighted to be here and be part of the G-Force. How about that? That's powerful.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, as well. I always like to start this out, not only a question to you, but to whoever is going to be touching this either on the live or on a replay. We just encourage everybody to, tag and share this out. Make comments, whatever the case may be. We never know who we can touch in a positive way with this message, either immediately or in the future. So, just encourage everybody to tag and share out there. But I'd like to ask this question for those that are watching and for you as well. What are you grateful for today?
Oh, my goodness. Tom, I am so grateful to be here with you to start with, to be sharing through this platform and like you said before, touching someone's life, someone that might need this message that we're going to be talking about. So I'm deeply grateful for that. And I'm deeply grateful for feeling gratitude. That's a privilege. That's such a powerful force. And when you embrace gratitude and you you embody gratitude in everything you do, being grateful for being grateful, it's kind of, I mean, for me, the best feeling in the world.
Well, because it is, gratitude is a positive
Hmm.
experience that we have, no matter what it is in our, and it's how we embrace that, because we can't hold a negative thought and a positive thought at the same time.
No.
It just can't do it. It could go back and forth pretty quick, but going to a place of gratitude is such a powerful principle. I believe it just opens up um, the gateways to responding to whatever's going on in life in a different way, with a different perspective, all the way to looking at things from a state of love and joy and peace and those type of things. But
Hmm.
so I would always like to, before we get into the topic that we sort of generally talked about, what you want to express, I think, a lot of people say, well, cybersecurity technology, what does that have to do with gratitude? But I think it'll all come into play. Just share your story.
Yeah.
What brought you to where you are today? And I know when you were interviewed with Ken, you shared some pretty, your roots and where you're at and some experiences in life, and then of course what you've experienced that led you to the security side in that. So why don't you just go ahead and share your story, your why, and then if I've got anything to say or comment, we'll go from there. But your
Yep.
story and your why.
Okay. Of course, happy to do that. Um, Before I share my story, let me just say this. Sometimes we hear somebody's story and we might not think that we can relate to, but we can always relate to the emotion. You can always relate to the moment, to the feeling, to. So when I'm sharing mine, even though you might not think that my story um, can relate to you, I just want you to think about the feelings that you have felt in the past, where you were afraid and you felt that you were not good enough, or you were desperate. All those kind of feelings have been a common theme in my life. And yes, I have a perspective that it's all around gratitude, because the odds, and I always think about that, the odds to be where I am from where I came from are pretty small. And that is something that when I get up out of bed, I jump into gratitude. I just jump out of bed, thinking a new day, thinking that I'm here, thinking that I actually have the basics, like, going to the bathroom. Believe it or not, Tom, I grew up without a toilet, and when I now go to my bathroom, or I open the faucet and there is water, there is always that part of me that remembers a time when that was not there, that wasn't possible, that I dream about it, and every single time I use, that something that we take for granted, right? Using a toilet or open a faucet, a moment to be thankful, a moment to appreciate what I have, a moment to really lean into my spirituality and lean into that force that brought me here. And one of the stories I would love to share with you and you that is listening is, I was 11 years old, and my mom and I were evicted. So it happened out of nowhere.
Why don't you share with you where your roots started, where you
Where I am
talking?
from. So I'm from Venezuela originally. So grew up in in a family that it was different. When I was born, my mom left after I was 2 months old, because she needed to make means to sustain both of us. My father wasn't in the picture at the time, and my mom was a very young girl. So she left me with her parents, so my grandparents, who were extremely poor, and they had 12 children. So imagine that. Now you have a grandchildren and, your own children, and it's a struggling time. So my mom leaves, she gets a job, and she tries to support me. And I am able to reunite with my mom when I'm 4. So just right there at the beginning of my life, when you are a baby, um, that feeling of abandonment, I think it follows you no matter what, because that's the time where you probably need the most nourishment, the most caring. And somehow that it's been there, and I work a lot into um, mm, you know getting out of the mindset or the feelings of abandonment, or that type of thinking. And there's a lot of therapy and self-development that I needed to go through. Nowadays I see that as part of my story, as part of something that I am proud of. I mean, not that I'm proud that my mom left, but I'm proud of who I become, of who I became as a result of all the struggles that I went through. So, just to answer that question, so I'm from Venezuela, and
I
we're a
have.
victim.
Can I comment on something?
Absolutely.
You said a couple, three things I think is important. In the beginning, is being grateful, and unfortunately, and this is from what I see in thing, is that, including myself, I took gratitude as just a surface thing. Being grateful, diving deeper into what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
Being grateful for your mom. She had to leave and
Hmm.
to try to provide for you. And a
Yep.
lot of times people will say, well, gee, I'm a victim. But no,
Hmm.
she being grateful of what she sacrificed to try to help you. And many times we take our gratitude, oh, I'm so grateful I have a nice cup of coffee today. But how can you take that for the person that's serving you? They got up early to show up to work, to
Yeah.
give you their attention, to make the coffee, and then taking it further of, the farmer that farmed the beans, and in the sacrifices they made to get it to us. If we really dive deeper into it, gratitude goes more than just the surface. And I think that's
Absolutely.
where I was operating in life in many things, until I had that, I called it an awakening, and then started realizing this moment is the most important element of my time in my life. And this
Hmm.
relationship and hearing your story is
Yeah.
so more important than anything that's ever happened in the past. Right now is the moment. And how can
Yes.
we make this the best? So
Absolutely.
don't
Love
take
it.
it for granted. And you said something spiritually.
Hmm.
And I believe gratitude is a spiritual principle
Yeah.
that leads to what I call the gateway to love.
Absolutely. Love
So
it.
I just wanted to comment on that, pick up some words that resonate with me, and go from there. So I took your stage here a little bit. So back to your story. Your mom paid a
Hmm.
heavy price to try to raise you up in difficult times, and you're grateful for that.
Absolutely. And I love what you said, Tom, because you could be grateful for something, or you could be grateful in something. And I think there is a difference. Being grateful for the coffee, for the house, for the car, for health. I'm grateful for something else that is out there. But when I'm grateful in the struggle that I have. I'm grateful in the, debt that I have. I'm grateful in the illness. I'm grateful in the relationship breakup that I have. Whatever that is, it's so different, and it changes you. And I love that you have that awakening that you just said. And I'm so happy for you that you got to experience that.
Thank you. So you grew up in Venezuela under poor circumstances,
Yes.
that I can't comprehend. And so there's a journey that you went through that gets you. So why don't you continue your journey story? And
Absolutely. So I'm 4. I reunite with my mom, and when I reunite with my mom, there's a stepfather in the picture now, and there was a lot that happened in that relationship, that we don't need to get into, but it was not a healthy relationship. Let's just put it that way. So we move a lot. And when I was 11, my mom and I were evicted from where we were living at the time. And at the moment, the only place that my mom was able to afford was a shack. So that was, a property that was in the, imagine there was a house, and the house had a yard, a big yard. And in that yard, that landlord built that shack that was a square box. There was no running water, there was no bathroom. There was a tiny door in the front, and the shack was like a rectangle. And there were two families living there. So we had a curtain that separated both sides of the shack. The part that it's, I think, the most powerful for me as an experience is that the other houses were normal houses, Tom. So imagine that you're living in a place where, everyone has a normal home and you live in a shack. You are how you're viewed or how you're perceived or how you are treated. It's different because kids don't understand how can this be a shack in my neighborhood. And as a result of that, I was bullied. But the gift in that situation, and I always think there's a gift in everything, is I was able to see a different life than the life that I was living. I was able to see how a family can be a family, like how they function, how a mom and dad relationship, how someone with a toilet, with a faucet, like how houses work. And I somehow long for that. I wanted that to be me. And I believe in visualization and techniques and how you can manifest anything in your life. So, I remember that because I didn't like my house and I didn't have my reality, I will dream that I will have a home and that I will walk through that home and I will open the door and there will be a bathroom and there will be, a place where I can go in, and be private. I always imagine that in my life. So powerful visualizations make things happen.
Yes. Yeah, the power of vision. Have a clear
Power
out
of vision
expectation and a
and
belief
imagination. Yeah.
and faith.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I always like to play this from somebody that taught me this. So faith with certainty. Because
Yes.
if we don't have certainty, it's just a wish and a hope. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so you were certain early on that you were going to have something different in your life and that you were experiencing. So that's amazing.
And I
So,
think, now that I think about, and I'm so grateful for all the teachers that came to teach me that, because at 11, I couldn't comprehend that on my own, but I did have influencers in my life. So like my teacher, my fifth grade teacher, and we were in a class, and one day she said, happiness is a choice and you are the architect of your own life. And those words stay in my brain. And I remember a time when I was bullied, when I wasn't, on the ground, beat up, and somehow that's what came to my mind. And I made that decision. And I think, sometimes visualizations and imagination and all these techniques, if you only wish for them, but you don't take an action, or you don't make that decision and then take an action, it just stays as a wish full, you know thinking. And I think the action part is what moves the things forward, and that's been part of my life, trusting and listening to my environment, listening to what is there, and having that faith that you just said.
so you grew up in poverty and circumstances. You had a vision and that you could see your outcome differently than your reality. You had a
Yes.
future reality that you were creating. So what sort of moved you to where you are? And there's some progression of. So why don't you continue with that? Your youngster to school, and how do you get to the United States? All that. So,
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, there was a big journey to walk in there. So from living in that shack until I was 16, I was evicted again. Oh, we were evicted again, and from there, I I I was graduating from high school at the time, and I just couldn't afford to go to college, but I always wanted to do something else with my life. I always thought, you know, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be I'm gonna have the family or the supports and how I dream about. And so I enrolled in a program at the time, Tom, that in Venezuela, if you were under 18 years old, you can join this government program where you go to school for 1 year and you have like a technical profession. So with that program for 1 year, I became a secretary. So I was an admin, and I was through the program, they will get an internship for me. So I'm 17 now, and I got my internship program at Heinz, the ketchup company.
okay.
So I am there and working through different departments, learning. It was amazing to me how computers, or the things that I've never seen in my life. And one time in particular, with one of the assistants, and she asked me to go to a hotel and deliver an envelope to one of the executives of the company. So I hop on a taxi, I get into the hotel, and Tom, I never seen a hotel before. I never seen like a lobby. I never seen floors made of marble, or things that you see in a movie, and you don't know how they are in reality. But that moment was a defining moment for me, because I went to the breakfast area. I delivered the envelope, and this man said, "Sandra, sit down and have breakfast." And it's the first time I see a buffet in my life. I see so much food, and I'm there, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" But something else happened in that moment, Tom, that changed the course of my life. I'm sitting, I'm having a feast with all the food, and people started to show up for breakfast. And I see in a table near me a woman with a computer, small computer, and I see men, like businessmen, and people are wearing suits, and somehow my mind went there, and I saw myself wearing a suit and having a small computer and traveling the world. And in that moment I made a decision, and I decided I will become a businesswoman. And you know again, those moments where you make a decision and then you take action. And from there I enroll in college, and many things happen till I got to the last job, and that relocated my family and me from Venezuela to the United States, to the Midwest. So it was a long journey, but when I look back, just I did not worry about, like, am I gonna make it? I was just worried about what's the next step I need to take. And sometimes I think we get so much into the how, like, how am I gonna get this, how am I gonna get there, like, how am I gonna become this or that. And it's just, if we take just the next step, in my experience and in my journey, it was enough just to take
Yeah.
that action.
You said something, you made a decision, and then
Mhm.
that's so important. And then taking action. And you also just mentioned you didn't worry about how. I think that's where people, when you ask the question how before you take action, it leads to can't.
Mhm.
And you knew that you just didn't worry about how. That's the
No.
biggest stumbling block people have. They got a vision, a purpose, and then they let all the hows get in the way, versus you learn how as you move, take a
Yeah.
step. The
Yeah.
answers will come, the circumstances will show up. Then you make another decision and you just keep moving forward. Yeah, you're going to fall down, right? I'm sure you had a
Oh,
lot of, yeah, you're going to
I
fall down, get knocked down, and all things along the way. But I think that's important what you said. is that you didn't worry about how. And I think that's what I call a key that a lot of people get stumbled on. They're always trying to figure out how instead of staying focused on their why and making a decision one step towards it, one step towards it. That step caused me to fall. Let's take another, get up and start over again. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to expound on what you said. You're pretty deep woman. I appreciate that. So
Thank
now
you.
you're in the States. Now what's going on?
Now, so we moved. So my husband and I moved to the States. So I skipped the part where I got married. So I got married 3 years before that, and I'm living the life that I dream about. Like, I have the marriage, the love, and get to the US, which is a dream. Like, a movie. I mean, my life is a movie. My life is amazing. Um I'm in a, Fortune 500 company. I'm living my dream life. We bought a townhouse, our first home here in the US. So we're
Where was
celebrating.
that?
It was in Wisconsin,
Okay,
actually.
yeah, so I brought that up because that's where I live. So we're quite
Exactly.
familiar with the area I live. So, so you moved to the Midwest,
I
Wisconsin.
mean,
Okay.
mhm. Now, from Venezuela, I just have to just to share with you and you listening. I grew up in Venezuela, which all year round the temperature is 85 or above. 85, 90, 100. Look, so I never experienced anything below that. And then I moved to the Midwest in Wisconsin. So I have to say the least. It was June and I was wearing a winter coat. It was 60 degrees and I thought, "Oh my God, this is freezing. I'm not." So my coworkers all laugh and they were like watching me and waiting for the winter to come. So it's pretty funny. So I get here, I'm living my amazing life. Learning the culture, learning, improving my English, improving my life here. So I have everything that I dream of. And then something happened, Tom. Is after the first winter, I go to visit my mom back in South America. And in my way back home, I'm landing in Miami when Homeland Security officers marched me off the plane. Now, I, I did not know what was happening. I'm so confused. I'm getting. I just remember vividly walking through the airport with the two tall, Homeland Security officers by my side, and I'm asking like, what's going on? Like, why this is happening? We get to the room, the immigration room, and it's called silence. Nobody is it, even though it's packed. Like, there's so many people in there. Um, I'm in the room. I'm thinking, what if I'm deported? What's gonna happen to me? Like, there are so many things in my head. I'm thinking about my luggage. I'm thinking about my husband who's waiting for me in Chicago, and he has no idea where I am. And when you are in that room, you're not allowed to use your phone. You're like, there's no connection, no communication, nothing. And 10 hours later, Tom, my name is called and they revoke my passport. And I just see this big red stamp. And I'm just told that I have to leave the country right away. So I go back to Chicago. I think I landed like at 3 a.m. in the morning, get home, and then my husband and I pack and left. So because the company that relocated me was in charge of everything, we started working with attorneys, and I get to Venezuela, I get to the US embassy, and I'm trying to get a new visa so I can come back to the country and continue with my career. So I'm in the embassy now in Caracas, and the security officer is interviewing me, and he's asking me, "Why were you in China? Who do you know in China? Who's your contact? I'm, I never been to China. I don't have any contacts, Tom. And I asked, this person, like, why are you asking me? Like, why was I taking off the plane? And he finally tells me that a criminal in China stole my identity to smuggle women into the United States.
Oh no.
And that moment changed everything for me. That moment, of it was the beginning of a long 6 years identity theft case. It almost broke my marriage, my career, and it really took a severe toll on my mental health and well-being. So at the time, I was not in gratitude as I am now, and at the time, I wasn't really as aware of as I am now. In fact, I was pretty distracted, Tom. I was living on autopilot. I was super busy all the time, and I just, never pay attention to things in my life. And I think that's why, when we talk early, what's the connection between gratitude and technology and cybersecurity? What happens for me is, when you are unaware, when you're distracted, life it's passing by. You're not living. And that was me. And that was um, an awakening moment for me.
So you had that experience as somebody stole your identity, used it for nefarious reasons,
Mhm.
and you got caught up in the immigration and all this, and you had to restore who you are, and and that sort of led to you. How can I help somebody else not go through this? I think is that where.
Initially, it wasn't. Yes, of course, yes. And initially, I didn't even know that it was identity theft because I was in technology. I wasn't in cybersecurity at the time. So I moved my career, 6 years later from technology, from IT to cybersecurity. And it was that light that went on my brain. And realizing how often it happens, how cybercrime and how identity theft affects people's life, how it affected my life. And that's when I really started to learn. And I work in corporate, I build programs, and um, I really started to go deeper into understanding all the different things that can happen, in the world of cybercrime. And that, led me to leave my corporate career and really go into my passion. And how can I help? How can my story and how what I went through and how I recovered from it? Because there's a part of me that went through a lot of dark times. And the mental aspect, we don't talk about that, but the anxiety, the things that you go through when somebody else is impersonating you, and when your whole life is just flipped upside down. And
Yeah,
when you go through that, yeah.
your vision was compromised, your dream, everything that you had visioned was compromised, and I can't comprehend that. What that had done to you, but you had that inner thing still that took you out of that. So that sort of leads to that question: can technology increase my gratitude or your gratitude? So you decided to get involved in cybersecurity. So share with what you do and how you're
Yeah.
making an impact, uh, helping people not have to go through what you've gone through. I have to say this. I have to say about 10, 12 years ago, closer to longer than that, maybe 15 years ago. I have to date this a little bit because I got hacked on my
Mhm.
computer. It
Yeah.
wasn't as severe or anything like that, but they got into my computer and I had no access to anything. It pretty much shut it all down. But they were targeting strictly my spreadsheets, looking for passwords or information about bank accounts or whatever. They were very targeted at what they were looking for. But they took over my computer and I couldn't access anything. So I
Yeah.
got, and it took about a week for somebody to get in and clean my computer up, and and put up. I didn't do the things I should have done, and having different passwords and all the things that people make mistakes in. And then I got some, some front end security on my computer, but I didn't yeah, it was disruptive, and I didn't have to go through what you went through. So I'll let you go with your story there. I just had to say that, we never think it's going to happen to us.
Absolutely, Tom. And there are so many degrees, and I bet there was information in your computer that it was very precious to you.
Yeah.
And I think losing anything, and when someone just invades that privacy, invades that space that you have, regardless of how the severity, or how it disrupts your life. And it's a week that you cannot get back. It's a week that you probably were stressed out. And
I was out of business for over a week, just getting my computer back. I had no resources that I needed in my business. I didn't have any of it.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, I started worrying, how they get access to my investments, my bank accounts. What else did they get? Nothing, thank God, was compromised. But yeah, it was a lot. It was very stressful.
It is. And every day, and I love what you just said, it can happen to anyone. So that's the truth. Every 39 seconds, there is a cyber attack that happens. 39 seconds every single day. And identity theft happens every 2 seconds. Yes, different degrees, and it's just something that it touches my heart every single day, because victims, I understand what they go through, and I understand sometimes how frightening is, if you're out there and someone steals your information, or your money, or your pride. So, and it doesn't matter if it's a child, like 1.5 million kids' identities are stolen each year, or if it's a woman, or senior, anyone, or a corporation. Schools. It just happens everywhere. And that is the reason I'm passionate about, because what I realized for me is I was distracted. I live on autopilot. I did not pay attention when someone asked for my personal information. And when I make that connection, it was a journey to really, between the cybersecurity knowledge, and also developing more that awareness and more connection with, well-being practices, and with wellness. I realized that there is a way for technology to increase my cybersecurity, for gratitude to increase actually my cybersecurity. And technology and gratitude, and technology and mindfulness, and technology and wellness are very close. Because think about this. When you grab your phone, like if you have your phone right there, Tom. Yeah, you have it there. So just tell me three things that you're grateful for with your phone, like that you can do with your phone, that you can listen to someone through your phone, or that you can connect with someone. Like, think about just three things.
Okay. Do you want me to articulate what I'm thinking?
Sure.
Is the fact that I can reach out to my loved ones more than anything else. I can stay in touch with my wife and my family. I use it as a business tool, but in reality, this is a connection when they're not around me. That's probably the greatest thing. And we take it for granted, right?
We do. And I came to appreciate my phone so much. My mother-in-law, she was like my second mom, and she passed away last year. And when I touch my phone and I think about her, I just can hear her voice through my phone. And it's that connection, and that tone, and that, like, the way that she greeted me. Like, I'm so grateful I had that opportunity, because you might not be living close to your family, and you can connect to them, or like you said, your family if they are in the supermarket or in school, you can get a hold of them. And so technology can definitely increase your gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So now that you got in there, you got a why, you got a purpose to
So yes.
bring. I think it's only how it's only through awareness, is, having programs like this, and you've done something, you've worked in corporate America, you've learned the skills, you've gone back to school, you're a bright woman, because I tell you what, technology sort of is not my thing. I'm a concept person, not a detail person. So now you got all this, you got a purpose and a why. So what are you doing with this knowledge? How are you bringing this level of awareness? Only through awareness can we ever make an impact and a change in this world, is putting that information and how people receive it. We don't have a lot of control whether they accept it, use it, or whatever. All we have to do is be a messenger with our purpose and passion. So what are you doing to get this word out around
Mhm.
cybersecurity? Because it doesn't, your story about how it impacted you is one that I can't comprehend. Losing all your freedoms and all the dreams that you had worked, where you thought you're never going to be able to get them back again, because the controls, powers bigger than you and I had control, right? You were totally out of control at that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the key, Tom. I love that you talk about, being in control or being, and I don't want, I like the word being in charge instead of control, because we cannot control everything, but we can be in charge of it.
right.
In the same way that we can be in charge of how we react to people, how do we react to our thoughts, and to, what's happening in our life, whether with gratitude or anger, or with grace, or not grace, right? It's that choice that we always have.
Yeah.
In the world of technology is the same, and I think for me, bringing that message, empowering others to know that they can be in charge. Like when you get an email with a link, you can choose to click or not. Like, only you can make that choice. And instead of me telling you, don't click, don't answer, don't do that, like, I'm just empowering and giving you the tools to acknowledge and to be in charge of what you can do with your technology. And it changes everything. It changes the way that you think about it. And so I do that through my books, through children. I have a children's series also, and I have an online course. So it's a progression, and you get to learn about cyber safety, cyber security, identity theft, and cyber crime in a way that it's not technical, in a way that it actually takes you in a journey, and it
Okay.
gives you at the end tools that allow you to even incorporate gratitude, incorporate wellness into your life. And it changed my life. It has changed the life of the people around me. It has changed the life of my customers, and that's why it feeds me every day, and that's why I get up so excited to share this, because again, um it's everything that happened for us. There's a reason for it. So I went through that identity theft, and I was, in all the things that happened in my life for a reason. And I love to know what that reason is now, and to share that story and the many more that I share.
Yeah, you shared something there, and I just want to expand on it. Is that you're bringing this into a thing that we can relate to as people, not technology. I think that's what gets people stuck. The technology, it creates fear. I don't know, and this and that. I don't know what to do. But just through awareness, you break down what I call that veil of fear. Now
Yeah.
you have a better awareness or an understanding. If what do you look? I think what you teach is, what do you look for before you push on the click? You're just aware of the source that's coming to you, and then you're making
Absolutely.
a judgment or a decision based on that level of awareness that you've been teaching, and take the fear out of it.
Absolutely. I love what you just said. Exactly. So, I have a three-step process, and I call it the be I am. And I am is obviously the most powerful word that exists, right? So be I am means be intentional, be aware, and then be mindful. Because when you are in that I am mindset, the amount of things that you can see, I mean, it's like your awareness, the things that you will see now in your email are completely different. Like you're gonna be like, oh my god, someone is really asking me to do this or that, and you start realizing things, and that level of awareness and that level of being present is what can prevent you to become a victim.
Yeah, you said two words, I am. I believe the two most powerful words in the I am. And whatever you put behind the am, I am, is
Yes.
your first thought, and that's the direction you go. It could be negative and it could be positive. I
Yeah.
am. And then you fill in the blank. And very powerful words
Yeah.
in life, not just in what we're talking about. So let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit about your books. I'm going to put a couple. You've written some books for children. I'm really curious about that piece in itself and how that's meant.
Sure.
And I can understand the book for how to, what to prevent, all the things that you teach. So let's talk a little bit about your books. I'm going to bring up your first book that may be relevant to adults and that thing, and then we'll talk about the books on children. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let me bring the pictures up here and see what. And I put the information on Sandra's book so that we go there. Let me see here. This is your. Let's talk about this book real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's about story. It's about, connecting. One of the things for me, when I connected my story in the world of cyber, everything changed. And when I talk about, my story, it isn't about my story. I mean, you have a story, Tom, and you just share that with us. And, your view of identity theft or cybercrime, it changes a little bit now because you have been able to share that, and anyone that is out there that has experience or knows someone that has experience, a cybercrime, can relate to. And that's the power. So I love that book because I am able to share my story in the book, as well as to how, learn and bring the awareness about cybersecurity and what it means, all these terms in simple, clear language. And I also share this story of 6 people that they went through identity theft or cybercrime and what happened. And so it's just that, in court, creating the foundation, let me just say it that way. That's what the book does. It creates the foundation so you can start taking charge of your cybersecurity for you, for your family, or for your business.
Okay. And you do workshops and trainings, part of what you do for organizations and businesses and that type of thing. And that's so necessary, even on myself, my wife and I are, solopreneurs, the best way to describe it. But I've been compromised, and I've taken, it's because of that I learned, and I put some of the basics in, and I've been blessed that I haven't had any other circumstances since then. But let's talk about this. This one intrigues me. Is the approach to your books and your writings for children? Can you? I'm going to put up this off your website. I just did a screen capture
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
children are the solution to cybercrime. And why don't you just share a little bit about the
Yeah.
books, and they can get that information on the website here
Yeah. Absolutely.
specifically. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Children between 4 and 8, that's what these books are called. They're coloring books. What I realized is, that's the timing when you are learning and your behaviors and you're changing and everything that you're like a sponge, right?
Right.
So when you're growing up, you learn how to look to the street, before crossing the street, look both sides of the road. And I just remember myself that I never been in a car. I moved with my mom, and we go for a ride in the car. I mean, of course. So remember, I grew up in poverty. I'm in a rural area. I get to live with my mom, and we go for a ride for the first time in my life in the car. And I just saw, we're driving, the car stops, and I saw someone that is playing with a ball, like on the street. And I'm a kid, I'm 4. So what I did is I went out of the window, and I never shared this before, actually. I jumped out of the window, and then there was a car coming, and I always was hit by that car. So I did not have I did not grow up with someone who tell me, you have to look to both sides of the road. Like, I did not have that as a second nature to me. I just jump out of the car looking for a ball. So, that's what these books do. These books allow children to develop those cyber safety practices that can help them when they get, with their iPad, with their computer, to have that second nature developed in the world of technology. And a beautiful way to do that is using fairy tales they already know. Because if you think about the one that you just showed there, it's the Little Red Riding Hood. So you know the story, Tom?
Yes.
Right. So what did the wolf did?
Say that again.
What the wolf in the Little Red Riding Hood did? What?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot now. There you go.
No, do you remember the story?
Yeah,
So the wolf tries to be the grandma, right?
exactly.
And just so he's pretending to be grandma,
Right.
like he's and Little Red Riding Hood is like, oh my God, that's not your nose, that's just your mouth, and he wants to eat Little Red Riding Hood.
Right.
But if you think about online, people can impersonate somebody else so easily. And if you teach that with that story, so that there are people online that could pretend to be somebody else, and they learn that, yeah, in a story that they relate, that they know and they love, that will stick with them so much more than any other probably way of don't do that, or don't go to that place, or using more fear based.
Right. Yeah. So, stories that relate to reality. They give
Yeah.
us a sense of reality, that we see it differently. So,
And
you wrote?
I,
How many books did you write for children? You got what
I
are your
have 4 books in English and 4 in Spanish.
okay?
And I just want to say, this story, because I love it. So there was a 4-year-old, and she and her mom were reading, and the other book, which is The Three Little Pigs and the Power of a Strong Password. So this 4-year-old is, you know, um, coloring the book, and they read the book, and she runs to her grandma and her grandpa, and the question that comes out of this 4-year-old is, grandma, grandpa, is your password strong? How is your password? I want my password to be strong, like the piggy with the brick house. And she doesn't know what a password is, but she will be soon be using passwords, or some form of, maybe passwords will hopefully be gone, but she will be using some form of way to authenticate. And having that mindset of, I want to have a strong password, I want to be like that, is such a good um, mindset that can start. And asking your family members, now the conversation can be friendly, and you can have cyber safety discussions in your family. So the books are, yes, are for children, but the excitement of grandparents and parents, that they can now have a tool that they can enjoy with family. It makes me so happy.
And instead of just overwhelm them with facts and
Yeah,
that type of stuff. So get them involved at because we learn at an emotional level. I mean, that's where our greatest learning is. We're emotionally tied to the information we want, and stories and coloring books gets them involved, puts that creativity, and
yeah,
creativity gives you better insight. You see things
absolutely.
differently. It's amazing. Unfortunately, a lot of our schooling is taken away that creativity out of the schools. But that's a whole different topic in itself. But so going back to this, so the question was,
How technology increased my gratitude.
yeah,
So imagine how, if every day when you wake up, instead of being your phone the first thing that you grab to check Facebook or text messages or your email, can you, when you grab that phone, just say, why are you grateful for that phone? And how that phone is going to help you to connect with others, and how you're going to make business transactions, and anything, whether it's personal or in business, and just spend like not even 30 seconds. It shifts everything inside. And if Tom, we touch our phones 344 times a day. That's an average. I mean, think about that. 340 times a day we grab the phone to check for something. So what if we just 10% of those we say a gratitude, or we have a gratitude thought or a gratitude word out. It change everything, and it can increase your gratitude, and it can increase your practice, and it can actually change your day and your life.
you just said it. Just I could have just lots of conversation with you, okay, on this is because it is, if we really be conscious of our gratitude, because if we take that moment of gratitude that you have this device that allows you to do whatever it's designed to do, that changes. If you're talking, I just use a business guy and a salesperson, okay, if I've recognized gratitude, that I'm grateful I have this device, my energy is already positive. So now when I make that call, I'm at a different level of energy. I'm in a space of positiveness because I recognize this phone. And how am I going to communicate with that person on the other end is going to come through, and it changes everything. Gratitude is not just a momentarily thing. It carries
Absolutely.
forward into the future.
Absolutely. And on top of that, I love that point, Tom. On top of that, because now you're grateful for that phone, you want to update that phone. You want to keep it clean. You want to have things in there that is protected. So then that brings a different mindset about, the things that I have to do to keep my technology safe. And instead of being dreading and boring or whatever, now you have a different
Perspective.
perspective, and you love it. And that's what I do when I do an update on my phone. I love it. I'm taking care of something that gives me gratitude. And yeah, we can talk all day about this.
We talk about cyber, we think technology and coding and
Yeah,
firewalls and all this stuff. You brought a whole different level of technology to a level of gratitude, because wow, it's powerful. When I heard your story, your story is amazing. And then of course, what I heard you saying in that interview with Ken, and yeah, what does gratitude have to do with technology?
everything.
Everything. Thank you. Well, I tell you what, an hour goes in a hurry, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, especially when you have someone so special like you. And I
Absolutely.
loved your show. I loved your questions. I love how much you you irradiate gratitude, and I love that because I can feel that through your screen. And thank you so much for what the work you do, Tom, and for who you are.
Well, thank you. It's been a journey. It's been a journey. In parting note, I always like one last message that you want to leave with the audience, and we'll just put you in the back room here for a minute. Don't run anywhere. But what would be an encouraging word that you can leave for anybody, whether it be a young person or whether it be a senior citizen, something that an encouragement to look at technology differently, I think. What would you say?
I will say I am. Be intentional, be aware, and be mindful, whether you are online or offline.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it. Couldn't have scripted that. Perfect. Thank you. You're awesome, lady. I appreciate you coming on, G-Force.
Thank you so much for having me.
Gratitude powers our potential. That's my tagline with that. So thank you very much for being here. G-Force, an amazing woman. That's what I love about doing these live streams. And we learn so much from the gifts of others and the stories. And hopefully that you came away with one thing. I always encourage, what's the one thing you could take and embrace and go put it to work for yourself? Taking action, making a decision. Like Sandra talked about, she had a clear picture and she made a decision and she took action. And hopefully something out of this meeting today with her, you'll grab that one thing and take action and approach the rest of your life with gratitude. So with that all said, we're going to sign out.